Hello, you're watching Rebel Base, IGN's weekly Star Wars show. Well done, you.
So last week it was announced that we're going to get a lot more Star Wars books, kind of a mixture of books, like from novels to young adult stuff to sticker books and more comics from Marvel.
Yeah.
And they're going to be filling in the gaps before The Force Awakens comes out. Now that the kind of expanded universe doesn't exist, that's being ushered into legend status. It's kind of resetting the ground.
I love the idea. I love the idea that there's so much coming out, because I think one of the big sort of outcries, I think, when they said they got rid of all the canon and put that to legendary status was there's so much cool stuff. And I think a lot of people, the thing that they like about Star Wars is it has this giant universe, and without that, maybe it's going to feel a little bit bare, which is why I think they come out with such a big announcement. Like, look, there's going to be 20 books, upwards of 20 books, filling in different stuff.
And, it's kind of like when I was a kid, and it is the same now, that Marvel Comics, DC Comics been going for 75 years or more, and there's so much accumulated mythology and continuity. It's really impenetrable for a newcomer.
Solid,
so when I was a kid, you could buy trade paperback collections in black and white, and still it's like you can never have a mastery over it. You still can't. So they introduced the Ultimate imprint, where it's kind of a resetting. And it feels like they're trying to make it a bit more inviting to people who a new generation
really good
to
point,
get
actually,
back into Star Wars.
Some of the cool bits of it is, because it's going to bridge the gap between, this is the important thing, it's going to bridge the gap between Jedi and Force Awakens. So there's going to be little bits and bobs over that 30-year period, like what's been going on with these characters, what's been going on with these people. And not all the books, as you said, some of them are like sticker books, some of them are all about vehicles, like vehicle books. And I think there's going to be little sort of Easter eggs and little tidbits hidden throughout these different things.
In the manuals?
Yeah, in the manuals. You used to get the old Ford Mini Cooper thing. Yeah. It's going to be like that, I think.
One of the ones I'm really interested in is Smuggler's Run, which is a novel all about Han, written by the comic book writer Greg Rucka. He's writing it, which is really exciting if anyone knows his work.
See, when I saw this, I was sort of thinking, what could it be about? And in my head, for some reason, straight away, Smuggler's Run, I've got this sort of vision of an older Han Solo, sort of refusing to give up his day job and refusing to let go of his sort of smuggler's things. Basically, like Fantastic Mr. Fox.
I thought you were going to say Last of the Summer Wine. Just keep going back out on it.
That's the thing. He's got this sort of thing, and he refuses to let go of his old life, even though Leia's sort of pleading with him to please stop going out and smoking. We're well off. We've got a big castle.
You don't need to do it.
You're basically
don't tie me down, baby.
Just leave it. Yeah. But I also really, really like the idea of there's a couple of other ones. There's Star Wars Aftermath, Star Wars Journey to the Force Awakens. Journey to the Force Awakens, maybe, I don't think that's a novel. That feels more like I'm not sure. That could be the sticker book, in fairness.
It's not, I don't think it's the strongest of the titles.
No, definitely not, no.
It sounds like a theme park ride.
Moving Target is another one, that's Leia. Now, for me, Moving Target seems to suggest that she's on the run. Quite a lot of the time. And I think maybe she's having to move her family around and having to keep on the run, and sort of she's a target constantly, hence Moving Target. But also, the other good one is The Weapon of a Jedi, and that's the one that's going to feature Luke.
Okay.
Now, I really like this one because it sort of ties into something that we love on Rebel Base, which is about Jedi artifacts, which we think is going to play...
This is never going to pan out.
No.
Keep building it up week after week. Jedi artifacts are a huge part of The Force Awakens. And never going to appear. No.
Maybe we'll just write our own Star Wars.
As long as I can get a sticker of it. That's what I just want a sticker of an artifact.
Exactly.
That's what all kids want.
But I think maybe that's what Luke's been doing. Maybe he's been trying to find these Jedi artifacts.
What did he do in all these intervening years?
It's exactly what these books are
kind of cool. All
do.
These questions that you've had are going to get answered maybe in a new way now.
So. But I really like, so Disney's Publishing Worldwide's Andrew Sugarman, and he had a really cool quote which talks about how the books are going to work with the film. The partnership with the story group and the editorial team always had to be true to the sanctity of the film, while making sure that we find these moments to introduce hints, clues, and puzzle pieces. Without revealing what those pieces are, it will just allow readers to speculate about the new film. What could a location mean? Or what could a character mean? So for me, that's so exciting, because you could end up reading something or seeing something that actually has a bigger sort of thing in the universe
than you actually know. It's going to be huge in the years going forward.
Exactly,
Whether it's the core films or whether it's the spin-off films like Rogue One, they're all going to mean something. We're going to get those clues.
Yeah.
And that's why they got rid of the expanded universe, because if you're going to forge a new story, factoring all that into account, it was probably just too constraining for any writer, because it's like, so much is filled in. I can't play with these characters or do that. It's really difficult. So,
But it's going to mean that we've got a lot of work to do, in fairness, because...
Got a lot of comics to read.
Anything
I've got a lot of sticker books. I'll do the sticker books.
Okay.
You do the novels.
The big novels.
I'll do the young adult novels.
We're going to hear from our good friend Eric now. He's going to tell you why you should be reading Star Wars Darth Maul, Son of Dathoromir.
Hey guys, thanks a lot. I'm going to continue on a villain kick this week. We talked about Tarkin last time. Let's talk about Darth Maul. People love Darth Maul. And the comic book limited series. It's got 3 titles: Star Wars, Darth Maul, Son of Dathomir. Came out last year in 4 issues. It's now in a collection. And the main thing here is it's a continuation of the Clone Wars. I was a huge fan of the Clone Wars, heartbroken when it got canceled and they didn't get to finish a lot of the storylines that were already written. We've heard they had recorded voices, they just hadn't finished animating them. And this was going to be the next Darth Maul arc. Never got completed in the show, they made it into a comic book. So that's really cool just to get more information on that. It is considered canon. I know that's always the big question. Is this official? It is. And as someone who was very wary of Darth Maul coming back at all in Clone Wars and then loved what they did with it, I was really happy to see where it went here. This is a really cool story if you're into the whole Sith element and the idea of the infighting between them, because Maul is in it, Sidious is in it, Dooku's in it, Grievous, I know he's not quite a Sith, but he pops up too in it, Mother Talzin pops up in it, and we really get to see all that infighting. The Jedi are part of this story, but they're really on the side, and I think their entire issues, they're left out of almost completely, if completely altogether. And as someone who, again, wishes the Clone Wars continued, I was very glad to see where it would have gone next. It does not wrap up the story 100%, but it gives you some big moves, some big things change by the end of it, and there are some reveals. I wasn't in love with the art, but as someone who loved Clone Wars, I could just imagine what it would have been like as episodes of the show. And this makes me hopeful, the fact that they put it out as a comic at all, that we'll get another continuation somewhere in some form, animated, live action, or otherwise at some point. So if you're a Darth Maul fan, I think you'll definitely want to check out Star Wars, Darth Maul, Son of Dathomir. That's it for this week, and I'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.
Okay, so we've talked about bad guys in the last couple of weeks. Bad guys are fun to talk about, but we've sort of been focusing on the biggies. Like the biggie bad guys. Exactly, the ones that everyone knows about.
We did a whole show on Darth Vader with Kieran Gillen. We've got preoccupied with Vader and Dooku to an extent, and obviously the Emperor.
So this week we thought we would introduce you to 6 Star Wars baddies you've probably never heard of. Now, these are some really cool guys. I know I don't know, there's something about bad guys and bad ladies.
Yeah, by the way, we know that's 4, not 6. Yeah. We're not idiots.
That's fine, we just don't have 6 screens. I mean, we could have split it up, but we did, that's fine. So let's kick things off. You kick things off.
Bane, not that Bane,
not that
Bane, Darth Bane.
That's right, yeah.
Bane's a good name for a villain. I was reading this when we were doing the research. It's amazing how many of these have roots to evil words.
Yeah.
So Darth Bane, he was a powerful Sith Lord who kind of became, I guess, disillusioned with the Sith, which is actually kind of the inverse of the journey that you see a lot, and the most famous.
A lot.
It's the famous journey in Star Wars that goes through the episodic movies, which is the fall of, obviously, Anakin and being drawn to the dark side.
Yeah.
But even though he becomes disillusioned with the Sith, he doesn't become a Jedi.
Which you think that's what would happen.
It's almost kind of a middle way, and it's almost like he's kind of, he can't become a Jedi because obviously that's not fundamentally his worldview.
No,
But at the same time, he has a pretty low opinion of the Sith.
That's right, yeah.
What's held them back for generations.
Yeah.
And that's why he came up with the idea of the rule of 2.
I think this is amazing, yeah.
To basically reduce the numbers of the Sith Lords, because obviously the kind of passions that motivate and drive them just lead to infighting,
that's right,
insurrection and the rest. So
and because of that, that's when they become most susceptible to the rebellion then as well. And they get weak all the time. So he had enough of it and did this rule of 2. But the thing I found really interesting is his rule of 2 can be the master and the apprentice. So it's literally just him and a mate. Yeah. Going around.
Why are you going down? Rule of 2. Sorry.
Rule of 2. Sorry.
Can I come? Rule of 2. Shotgun.
All the time. Yeah, he's basically invented shotgun rules.
In a galaxy far, far away.
But what's his best appearance?
Best appearance, I think we're going to go for episode 13 of season 6 of the Clone Wars, Sacrifice, when Yoda visits the Sith homeworld and sees the ghost of Bane.
Sees his ghost, and that's the thing. It's a really, really scary thing, but it shows how just brutal. It shows how brutal Bane is, but at the same time, also shows how just understanding Yoda is, because he's confronted with Bane's ghost, but even though he's a terrifying sort of thing, he's almost sort of like Smaug-like in the way that he sort of comes out. But Yoda knows he's just a ghost and he can't really do anything about it. So next up, my favourite, or one of my favourite, is Aurra Sing here. So now we see her very, very briefly in The Phantom Menace. Very, very briefly, but you don't really get a sense of who she is or what she's about. And if you read up on it, she has basically the worst childhood possible. Like her mother's addicted to spice. She never knew her father, and she's sort of like bandied around. She's given to slavers at one point, and then is taken because she's such an aggressive person. She's taken, and she's a really, really good fighter. She's taken to the Jedi Order, and she starts training there. And because she was a sort of like almost like problem child, they give it to the mysterious Jedi Master, the Dark Woman. Which we should definitely do an entire episode on at some point. But she can't handle her because she's just too aggressive. And so even while she's she's studying as a Padawan, like so much bad stuff happens to her. And like she ends up, like at one point she ends up being captured by the Hutt. Another point she gets given to a bunch of assassins, and they train her up to be an absolute beast of a killer. And she eventually becomes Aurra Sing, the Jedi killer.
So you're blaming this all on childhood?
I'm blaming it all on a spice-addicted
Well, you know
mother,
who else had a crap childhood? Luke Skywalker. He didn't end up doing any of this stuff.
Her best appearance, for my money, is in a novel called Coruscant Night 2: Streets of Shadow, where she's tasked by Darth Vader. I don't want to call Lord Vader, he's not my lord. Where she's tasked by Darth Vader to hunt out the Jedi Jax Pavin. So she is sort of going after sort of the main protagonist of that. And she's got just the coolest quote. "Fear me, Jedi. I am Aurra Sing, Nashta, scourge of your kind. I haunt your darkest dreams. I drink Jedi blood. I nest in their guts. Your nightmares now have a name, Hierophant, and that name is Aurra Sing." What a badass, ultimate badass Aurra Sing there.
Another ambiguous villain, we're going to go for Darth Malak.
Okay.
Interesting. Again, he was started off as a Jedi, going on that kind of troubled journey where...
Happens all the time.
Well, that's the problem.
The Jedi need to like have some HR going on, because so many people...
Teachers with a firmer hand.
Well, no, maybe that's not the point. I think maybe just more in control of stuff.
Yeah. What, regular one-to-ones?
Yeah.
With Master Yoda. It's very understanding.
Yeah.
Where's he going? Oh, he's visiting ghosts. Brilliant. I've got a problem right here, right now. He told me at 11 o'clock on Fridays. So he kind of got frustrated with what he perceived to be kind of passivity of the Jedi.
Yeah.
So they weren't upholding what they were meant to do in the galaxy, which is kind of be these great guardians and peace and justice, which you sometimes have to do through certain means. And, you know, make exceptions. That kind of be tough to be just.
Yeah.
And he has a very strong kind of compass when it comes to kind of issues like that, and that's kind of leads him towards the dark side.
Yeah.
Obviously, he teams up with Revan.
It's really hard though, because you know, you go into the sort of Jedi Order because, you know, you're either identified as being like Force sensitive or like, you know, great warriors as well. And great warriors are often, you know, sort of quite aggressive, which is exactly what we saw Aurra Sing. And then you're sort of almost punished for that because you have to be a bit more understanding, a bit more control of your anger.
Yeah, I think it's like when you're kids, like you perceive Star Wars to be, you know, it's said all the way through the language of the film, you know, coming to the dark side.
Yeah.
And people kind of paint it or as this kind of mythological text where it's good and evil. But the more that you watch Star Wars, the more that you see that it is this kind of spectrum of politics and positions.
Huge, yeah.
And probably Expanded Universe stuff delves into that more about how these people have different vested interests.
Yeah.
And it becomes more about which side of the ideological divide. And some of these villains are basically people who don't maybe fit into the neat sides on anyone's side.
That's right, yeah.
And they kind of drift back and forth. Same with the bounty hunters.
Yeah.
They don't really have 2 feet in either camp.
No.
And it's much more interesting and convoluted than that. And what's also just quite a menacing look, it's almost reminiscent a bit of Vader, but it's actually quite disgusting that he had that kind of his jaw severed by Revan when he kind of implied that he was a bit soft.
Yeah.
So he took off his jaw with a lightsaber. Pretty grim.
So what's his best appearance then?
I think you want to go back to the source, which is Knights of the Old Republic.
Man, Knights of the Old Republic is so good. We need to do another episode just on Knights of the Old Republic.
Play
actually,
all
as well.
through.
Yeah. I'd love to play that again. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got next then Grand Admiral Thrawn, or Mithran Nuradu. Mithran Nuradu.
Is that Welsh?
It's not far off Welsh, actually. But he's one of the Chiss. There he is, the sort of blue-skinned, sort of almost human, but not quite
Humanoid.
human. Yeah, exactly. And he served in the Imperial Navy and is actually one of the only non-human to make Grand Admiral, even though they've got a really, really strict non-human policy. But he was spending a lot of time in the unknown regions and basically doing what the Emperor was doing, but in the unknown regions. So he's sort of going around and getting loads of people to the Force, getting loads of people to their sort of army and recruiting people like that, while the Emperor is doing all this stuff in the known galaxy. So when the Emperor falls, he then has this giant force, and basically the rebellion pretty much think they're onto a winner until Thrawn comes back with this absolute force that he's been cultivating in the unknown regions, and he's just known as like one of the biggest badasses in the Imperial Navy, which is really, really cool.
So one of the more kind of removed, manipulating villains.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. And I think like for me, his best thing that he's done, not best appearance really, but he formed the Empire of the Hand, which I've been reading up on a lot on recently, and it's basically, he did quite a lot of good with that as well, because he was persecuted like all the time as part of the Imperial Navy. He was persecuted all the time because of his appearance, and because they had a really, really strict non-human policy. But because of him, like whatever bad the Empire of the Hand did, and they did a lot of bad, but whatever they did, because of him, non-humans were allowed to fly in military space, which is a massive thing for the galaxy, and actually it's quite inclusive of a really, really bad guy thing to do.
What any great dictator will tell you, you don't rule your people through fear, you make them love you.
Boom.
And they're yours forever.
Done.
That's Dictatorships 101. That's the cutout this week. So we're going to... Dirge, do you want to know a bit about Dirge?
I'd love to know a bit about Dirge.
Great bounty hunter. He was bounty hunter for like hundreds and hundreds of years.
Yeah.
And again, we talk about one of these people who doesn't really have a vested interest on either side.
Yeah.
He fought Sith, he fought Jedis, and pretty much became well-versed in kicking the ass of both.
Yeah.
He ran missions for Dooku during the Clone Wars.
He just doesn't care. He'll kill anyone.
What?
It's fine,
Take you all on. So he like mastered the moves of both orders. Ran missions for Dooku, and he was the guy that was tasked with hunting down Boba Fett.
Awesome.
Like, you got to be pretty badass if that's your job. Yeah. If you think you're up to doing that.
Like to put your hand up for that mission.
Yeah, and he's also we haven't got a picture of him, but he's got a pretty badass look to himself. He's got this like metal suit of armor. It's a little bit Iron Man. He's got like machine guns. He's got a wrist-mounted flamethrower. He's got kind of this spiked whip thing.
That's awesome.
He's pretty well equipped.
Yeah.
He might not be the fastest, but he's well equipped with
He
stuff.
sounds like a boss in Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, meets Iron Man.
Yeah, I like it.
And he's coming for Boba Fett.
What's his best appearance?
So there's a comic that you need to track back, Dark Horse comic, Star Wars Obsession #3.
Okay.
Is when he kind of confronts his kind of storyline intersects with Obi-Wan and Anakin's. Yeah. And he kind of takes them both on, does pretty well, and then Anakin does what Anakin does, and he force pushes him into a sun. That's the only thing that could kill him, was being consumed by a giant ball of fire.
Yeah, I'll probably do it, to be honest.
Obi-Wan's like, do you think that was too much? Too much?
Well, he's been alive for hundreds of years, now he's not alive, so who knows. So finally then, we're going to end with Terranul Screed. Now, we did actually touch upon this guy last week, Eric did in his feature, and he's basically an officer of the Galactic Empire. He's known for, he was in Droids, the cartoon. He is like one of the main bad guys in that. He's one of the first admirals of the Imperial Navy, and he's basically the Emperor's like right-hand man. And although he was a celebrated like military official, his career takes a bit of a nosedive as soon as the Emperor dies, because when we've heard with Thrawn, his career sort of was on the up all the time, and even when the Emperor died, he continued to do really amazing stuff. Screed couldn't really be trusted that much, and he sort of became like a warlord and was just scrappy, sort of fighting to keep a hold of the Empire. Doesn't manage to do that, and actually is killed by another warlord, and that's how he sort of meets his demise.
That's one of the things I love about Star Wars, is the kind of the side of the Empire and just how kind of banal it is, like workplace politics and like getting promoted and stuff like that. Really, almost like Office Space, but in space. Office Space, literally.
Yeah, and because Thrawn was killed by his bodyguard, because his bodyguard found out that the Empire had killed a load of his people, and he found this out and killed him. It's just like, there's so much cool stuff like that going on, but it's like, even though it's taking place in this giant sort of space opera, really small little things happen.
And once again, demonstrating the value of HR.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Screed's highlight for me is something you don't really see. He loses an eye defeating some Biscaran pirates, and I think you see the sort of aftermath of it all the time because he's just a really, really angry man forever.
So those are 6 baddies that we think deserve a little bit more time in the sun. Probably not Dirge, because he's literally in the sun. But if there's anyone we missed that you really like, email us at rebelbase@ign.com.
And for everything else Star Wars, keep it right here on IGN.